It was just past dawn in a quiet suburban neighborhood of Dayton, Ohio, when a soft knock at the door went unanswered. Neighbors who knew her well would later describe a chilling stillness in the air, a stillness that felt wrong. No cars stirred. No voices floated from inside the modest two-story home where Lisa Harper lived with her 2 young children. The mail had piled up, and the newspapers lay scattered in the driveway, untouched. Inside, an empty crib held the faint scent of lavender and baby powder. The kitchen smelled faintly of burnt toast, the old coffee maker still warm to the touch. But Lisa Harper was nowhere to be found. And that was just the beginning of a nightmare that would unravel far deeper than anyone imagined. Lisa Harper was, by all appearances, an ordinary woman. A loving mother, a devoted teacher at the local elementary school, and a familiar face at the community church. Her days were marked by the routine of school drop-offs, grocery runs, and bedtime stories filled with soft lullabies and whispered promises. Her neighbors described her as warm but quietly reserved, never one to seek attention. She carried the kind of strength that goes unnoticed. The steady hands that bandaged scraped knees, the patient voice that calmed a frightened child in the dark. Her smile, they said, could light up the darkest room. But behind closed doors, life was more complicated than anyone realized. There were whispered arguments that some overheard through thin walls, quiet tears wiped away in the bathroom mirror, and a growing distance between Lisa and her husband, David. On the surface, they were a picture-perfect family. But beneath, tension simmered, silent, dangerous, and unseen by those around them. The last time anyone saw Lisa was late one evening, a Thursday, when she kissed her children goodnight and retreated to her bedroom. Her husband was already asleep, or so he said. The next morning, Lisa didn't wake up. At first, David told friends she had gone out for a walk to clear her head. When she didn't return by noon, alarm bells rang. Calls went unanswered, text messages unread. Her car remained in the driveway, keys on the kitchen counter. Days passed. The police were called. A missing persons report was filed. Flyers with her photo spread across the town. Have you seen Lisa Harper? Loving mother, 34 years old. Last seen in her home on Maple Street. Friends and family gathered to search, their voices cracking with worry. The children clung to their grandmother, asking endless questions with innocent confusion. Detective Karen Mitchell took the case. A seasoned investigator with a keen eye for detail, she knew that the first 48 hours in a missing persons case were critical. The house was examined. No signs of forced entry, no struggle, no apparent theft. Lisa's purse was found on the kitchen table, her phone dead but inside the house. But something didn't add up. The security cameras on the street showed no one leaving or entering that night. And David's story kept changing. First saying he had gone to bed early, then admitting he had stayed up late watching TV. As the search extended into a full-scale investigation, Karen began to dig deeper into Lisa's life, her relationships, and her last days. The neighbors recalled the muffled arguments, the sudden silence where laughter once lived. And behind the closed doors of the Harper home, secrets started to emerge. 2 weeks after Lisa disappeared, the police received an anonymous tip. It led them to a remote area on the edge of town, a neglected patch of woods thick with dead leaves and twisted branches. There, buried beneath a thin layer of dirt and fallen leaves, was Lisa's body. The autopsy report shattered any lingering hope. Lisa had been strangled. The crime was personal, anger, betrayal, and something darker. But the real shock was yet to come. Forensic evidence pointed to someone inside her home, someone who knew the rhythms of her life, who had the trust and access to carry out such a crime without detection. DNA found under Lisa's fingernails belonged to David Harper. The revelation sent shockwaves through the community. David Harper, the quiet husband and devoted father, was arrested and charged with the murder of his wife. During interrogation, David remained calm, almost detached, weaving a tale of desperation and darkness. He claimed the murder was an accident, that a heated argument escalated beyond control. But the evidence told a different story. Messages on Lisa's phone from a friend spoke of fear, of threats, and a relationship turning toxic. In the courtroom, the prosecution painted a picture of a man who felt trapped, who saw violence as his only escape from a crumbling marriage. Friends and family were torn between disbelief and heartbreak, struggling to reconcile the man they thought they knew with the monster he had become. The children, now in the care of relatives, would carry scars unseen but deeply felt, their world forever altered by the loss of their mother. But just as the trial was about to conclude, a new piece of evidence emerged. An encrypted message found on Lisa's laptop, deleted hours before her disappearance. It hinted at a secret she was about to reveal, something that could change everything the investigators thought they knew. Was David truly the sole culprit? Or was there someone else, lurking in the shadows, with a motive even darker and more twisted? The case of Lisa Harper was far from over. The courtroom buzzed with uneasy whispers as the prosecutor called for a recess. Detective Karen Mitchell sat silently, staring at the screen where the encrypted message was displayed in fragments. A digital puzzle begging to be solved. It wasn't just a message. It was a lifeline thrown from beyond the grave. But who was the intended recipient? And what deadly secret had Lisa uncovered in the final hours of her life? In the weeks before her disappearance, Lisa's behavior had subtly changed. Those close to her recalled the nervous glances at her phone, the furtive text conversations she deleted with trembling fingers. The steady, composed woman was now a shadow of herself, haunted by fears she refused to voice. Friends revealed that Lisa had confided in a colleague at school, someone she trusted, about troubling discoveries involving her husband's finances. Suspicious transactions, late-night calls, and people lurking in places they shouldn't have been. Detective Mitchell began to suspect that the case was no longer just about a domestic dispute. It had spiraled into something bigger, something far more sinister. With the help of cybercrime experts, the encrypted message was painstakingly decoded. It contained fragmented names, dates, and references to a secret account, a hidden trail of money flowing through the Harper household into unknown hands. Simultaneously, surveillance footage uncovered a mysterious figure lurking near the Harper home in the days leading up to Lisa's death. The person's face was obscured, but their presence was undeniable. Meanwhile, Lisa's phone records revealed calls made to a local private investigator, a man named Mark Ellis. He had been hired by Lisa to uncover the truth. But Mark vanished without a trace shortly after Lisa disappeared. Digging through Mark's contacts, Detective Mitchell discovered something chilling. Mark had ties to David Harper's business partner, a man named Jonathan Reed, who had recently been caught up in a scandal involving embezzlement and fraud. Further digging revealed that Lisa had stumbled onto Jonathan's schemes and planned to expose him, using the evidence she'd collected, including documents hidden in her laptop. Had Jonathan discovered Lisa's plans and silenced her? Or had David's guilt masked a deeper conspiracy? The walls were closing in on Jonathan Reed. Police raided his office, uncovering forged contracts and illicit bank accounts. But Jonathan remained calm, claiming innocence and pointing fingers at David, whom he alleged had been aware and complicit all along. Detective Mitchell faced a web of lies, betrayal, and greed stretching far beyond the Harper household. The tragedy of Lisa's death had become a spark uncovering a criminal network thriving under the guise of respectability. And then, just when hope seemed to surface, Mark Ellis's phone pinged. It was turned on after weeks of silence. A message awaited. "I know what really happened. Meet me at the old mill. Come alone." Detective Mitchell knew this could be the breakthrough or a trap. As the sun set over Dayton, she prepared to meet Mark in the shadows. But in the quiet distance, unseen eyes watched, and a sinister plan was already unfolding. Because some truths are more dangerous than lies. The old mill stood deserted on the outskirts of Dayton, its rusted beams groaning in the evening wind. Detective Karen Mitchell approached cautiously, her breath visible in the cold air, heart pounding with a mixture of hope and dread. Mark Ellis's message had been clear, and the weight of the truth hung heavy, like a storm ready to break. Mark was there, shadowed beneath a broken window, his face pale but eyes sharp. He handed over a battered USB drive without a word. "Everything's on here," he said, voice low. Lisa didn't just find Jonathan's crimes. She found something bigger, something they'd kill to protect. As the detective plugged the drive into her laptop, a series of encrypted files began to decrypt themselves, revealing an intricate network of fraud, bribery, and blackmail spanning local officials, business leaders, and even law enforcement. Lisa had uncovered that Jonathan Reed wasn't just an embezzler. He was the tip of a corrupt iceberg. The money trail led to a shadowy syndicate operating under Dayton's very nose, siphoning millions through shell companies, money that funded everything from political campaigns to illegal arms deals. Mark explained how Lisa had been gathering evidence to expose the entire ring, and why that made her a target. "I followed the money for months," Mark whispered, "but someone got to me first. They knew I was close." Suddenly, headlights flashed outside the mill. Mark stiffened. Before Karen could react, a gunshot shattered the night. Mark collapsed, clutching his shoulder. In the chaos, a masked figure lunged toward the detective, but she fought back fiercely, managing to escape into the woods with the USB drive. Bleeding and shaken, Karen made her way back to the station, knowing the evidence she carried could bring down the syndicate, but also knowing she had painted a target on her back. The trial of David Harper continued amidst growing media frenzy. The corrupt web Lisa had uncovered became public knowledge, exposing officials and shaking the city's foundations. David's conviction for Lisa's murder was sealed, but his role as a pawn in a larger game was clear. He had tried to silence her, but the real masterminds remained hidden. With the USB drive's contents, Karen led a coordinated sting operation, arresting key members of the syndicate in a dramatic raid that unfolded live on the news. Dayton breathed a tentative sigh of relief, but the victory was bittersweet. Lisa's children would grow up knowing their mother's fight ended in tragedy, but also sparked justice. Detective Karen Mitchell stood before the Harper family one last time, promising to protect the truth Lisa died defending. But as the dust settled, Karen's phone buzzed with a new message. No sender, no explanation. "You've only scratched the surface. The real danger is yet to come." Because in a city built on secrets, the darkest shadows always linger. The courtroom was silent as the judge pronounced the verdict. Guilty on all counts. David Harper's face remained impassive, but for those who had known Lisa, justice was a small balm for a deep wound. Detective Karen Mitchell watched from the back of the room, the weight of the case finally beginning to lift. The truth had come to light, not just about the murder, but about the darkness lurking beneath the town's calm facade. Lisa's children, now safe with their grandmother, would never forget their mother's strength or the terrible cost she paid for seeking justice. The community held a quiet memorial, a gathering of those touched by her story, a reminder that even ordinary lives hold extraordinary courage. Outside the courthouse, Karen stood alone, the autumn breeze tugging at her coat. She thought of Lisa, the mother who vanished, whose silence spoke volumes, whose absence filled rooms and hearts alike. She closed her eyes and inhaled the crisp air, smelling faint traces of falling leaves and distant rain. The case was closed, but the scars remained. Sometimes, Karen mused, the hardest part wasn't finding the truth. It was living with it. If Lisa's story touched you, don't let her voice be forgotten. Subscribe and hit the notification bell to join us as we uncover more stories that demand justice. Share this video to raise awareness and support those still searching for answers. And if you have any information or leads about cases like Lisa's, reach out, because every detail matters. Together, we can shine light into the darkest corners.